He said I was unnecessary, that an automated answering machine could replace me. But when their systems began to collapse piece by piece, only one person held the map of all the missing pieces. They fired the only person who knew why customers stayed. And then the contracts started to disappear one by one. I didn't need revenge. I just needed to wait for the truth. To speak up. The first time I realized I was more than just a voice on the phone was when Mr. Harrington from Atlas Core called at 4:57 p.m. on a Friday. Everyone else had mentally checked out for the weekend, but I picked up on the third ring. Arenix support, this is Callie Morgan speaking. How can I help you today? There was that familiar sigh on the other end, the one that told me someone's day had gone from bad to catastrophic in the span of a software update. Callie, thank God it's you. Mr. Harrington said. The entire East Coast distribution center just went dark. The system says it's running, but nothing's processing. We've got trucks lined up outside and managers screaming. Most support specialists would have opened the troubleshooting manual. I closed my eyes instead. Visualizing the Atlas Core setup I'd helped configure 3 years ago. Did you just migrate to version 8.2? Yes, yesterday afternoon. And you're using the legacy inventory protocol because of your custom warehouse modules. A pause. How did you remember that? I didn't tell him I remembered everything. That I could recall every customer setup, every unusual configuration, every workaround we'd ever implemented. That while my colleagues relied on our knowledge base, I had become one. The migration script doesn't account for the legacy protocol handshake, I explained, already typing commands into my terminal. Give me 5 minutes and remote access. We'll need to manually reconcile the inventory tables and restart the distribution services in a specific sequence. 40 minutes later, his trucks were moving again. The crisis that would have cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars had been averted because I knew what wasn't in our manuals or our FAQs or our precious automated systems. You just saved our weekend, Callie. Mr. Harrington said, I'm going to tell your boss. I smiled. Just doing my job, sir. But that was the thing about being a senior customer support specialist at Arenix. My job had never been defined by what was written in my contract. It was defined by what happened when systems failed, when technology forgot its promises, when the space between software and human need became a gulf instead of a bridge. I'd been with Arenix for 7 years. We weren't the biggest player in the enterprise resource planning space, but we'd built a loyal customer base. Our software wasn't always the sleekest or the most feature-rich, but our support was legendary. That was our edge. That was why companies stayed through bugs and delays and the temptation of shinier competitors. The support team was small, just 12 of us handling our global client base, but we knew things. We knew which hospital administrator needed her password reset every Monday morning because she refused to use a password manager. We knew which manufacturing plant needed special attention during thunderstorm season because their backup generators caused data anomalies. We knew which financial controller would call in a panic before every quarterly close, and we'd preemptively check his system the day before. My cubicle walls were bare except for a single post-it note. Remember, you are the backup system. It was my personal mantra, a reminder that when everything else failed, I wouldn't. I should have seen it coming. The rumors had been circulating for months that Arenix was looking for new leadership, someone to take us to the next level. The board wanted growth, wanted to compete with the Silicon Valley darlings, who were raising hundreds of millions in venture capital. The day Austin Greaves walked through our doors, I felt a shift in the building's atmosphere. He moved with the calculated confidence of someone who believed technology could solve every problem, especially human ones. Austin was 42, with the kind of polished appearance that spoke of expensive haircuts and tailored shirts even on casual Fridays. His resume was impressive: Stanford MBA, executive roles at 2 tech unicorns, advisor to venture capital firms. He spoke in TED Talk soundbites about frictionless experiences and automated excellence. The all-hands meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. We gathered in the main conference room. Support staff clustered together near the back. We'd always been the stepchildren of the company, essential but unsexy compared to engineering or sales. Austin stood at the front of the room, a sleek presentation glowing on the screen behind him. His smile was professionally whitened, his enthusiasm choreographed. Arenix has been a solid performer in a competitive market, he began, pacing slowly across the front of the room. But solid isn't enough anymore. We need to be exceptional. We need to be revolutionary. I glanced at my colleague Diana, who rolled her eyes slightly. We'd heard this kind of talk before. I've spent the last 2 weeks analyzing every aspect of our business, Austin continued. And I've identified several opportunities for transformation. The word hung in the air like a guillotine blade. He clicked to the next slide, operational efficiency initiatives. Our first area of focus will be modernizing our customer support infrastructure, he said, his voice taking on the rehearsed cadence of someone delivering what they believe to be a visionary pronouncement. Currently, we're using an outdated model of human-first response that doesn't scale. Our competitors have moved to AI-driven systems with 85% resolution rates without human intervention. I felt my spine stiffen. Next to me, Diana's face had gone completely still. The reality is, Austin said, making eye contact with various executives around the room but never glancing toward the support team's corner. We don't need support specialists in the company. A regular answering machine can do this simple task. The room went silent. I could hear the soft hum of the air conditioning, the almost imperceptible whir of the projector. Someone in the front row cleared their throat. Our new automated response system, we're calling it NORA, for Neural Optimized Response Assistant, will handle all Tier 1 and Tier 2 support inquiries. It will learn from customer interactions, identify patterns, and provide solutions faster than any human team could. He clicked to a slide showing a downward-sloping graph. This represents our projected support costs over the next 12 months. As you can see, by implementing NORA and optimizing our human resources, we'll reduce operational expenses by 78%. Optimizing our human resources. The corporate euphemism for firing people. What about the customers who specifically ask for certain support specialists? The question came from Rajiv, our technical account manager. We have enterprise clients who have relationships with specific team members. Austin's smile didn't waver. That's a transitional concern. Studies show that customers adapt quickly to automated systems when they're properly designed. We'll be implementing a change management program to help our clients through the transition. I raised my hand. Austin's eyes skipped over me before reluctantly returning. Yes, he said, the slightest edge of impatience in his voice. Callie Morgan, Senior Support Specialist, I said, though I suspected he knew exactly who I was. What about the customized implementations? Many of our largest clients have setups that aren't documented in ways an AI can easily parse. Austin's smile tightened. That's exactly the kind of institutional knowledge we need to systematize. Part of this initiative will involve comprehensive knowledge transfer from the support team to our systems. In other words, tell us everything you know before we fire you. And what about the bugs? I pressed. The workarounds that haven't been officially patched. The customer-specific configurations that... Those are engineering concerns. Austin interrupted smoothly. And they'll be addressed through our new continuous improvement pipeline. NORA will actually help us identify those issues more systematically than anecdotal reports. Anecdotal reports. 7 years of keeping systems running, of knowing exactly which buttons to push when everything went sideways, reduced to anecdotal reports. I wanted to argue further, but Diana's hand on my arm stopped me. This wasn't a discussion, it was an announcement. We'll be moving quickly on this initiative, Austin continued. Department heads will be meeting with their teams individually to discuss next steps. This is an exciting time for Arenix. We're not just changing our systems, we're changing our future. The meeting ended with scattered applause, none of which came from our corner of the room. As people filed out, I caught a glimpse of our CTO, Marion Chen. She'd been with the company almost from the beginning, and the look on her face was one of carefully concealed concern. He's going to gut the department, Diana whispered as we walked back to our desks. Maybe not, I said, without conviction. Maybe they'll retrain us for other roles. But we both knew better. Support specialists weren't engineers or data scientists. In the eyes of people like Austin Greaves, we were an expense, not an asset. The email came 3 hours later, a meeting request from Austin Greaves and Heather from HR, scheduled for 4:30 p.m. Subject: Organizational Transition Discussion. I spent the intervening hours doing what I always did, solving problems. Mr. Chen from Medorova needed help with a report that wouldn't generate correctly. Mrs. Patel from Global Financial had questions about the upcoming tax calculation update. Mr. Jefferson from Atlas Corp wanted to know if I'd be available for their system review next month. Absolutely, I told him, knowing it was probably a lie. At 4:28 p.m., I saved my case notes, closed my active tickets, and walked to the executive conference room. My footsteps echoed in the hallway, unnaturally loud. Austin and Heather were already seated when I arrived. A folder sat on the table in front of the empty chair, clearly intended for me. Callie, thank you for joining us, Austin said, as though I had a choice. Please, have a seat. I sat, hands folded in my lap, back straight. 7 years of professionalism didn't disappear just because I could see what was coming. As we discussed in the all-hands meeting, Arenix is undergoing a significant transformation, Austin began. We're reimagining how we deliver value to our customers and how we structure our operations. Heather smiled sympathetically. She'd been with the company for only about a year and had already overseen 2 restructurings. Your role as senior support specialist has been instrumental in helping Arenix get to where we are today, Austin continued, his words flowing with practiced sincerity. The relationships you've built with our customers and the knowledge you've accumulated are invaluable. The past tense wasn't subtle. However, as we move to our new support model, we've had to make difficult decisions about our staffing needs. Here it was. We've determined that your position will be eliminated as part of our organizational transformation. The words hung in the air between us. I'd been expecting them, but they still landed like a physical blow. This isn't a reflection on your performance, Heather interjected quickly. Your personnel records show consistently excellent reviews. This is purely a structural decision. Austin nodded. Exactly. In fact, we see this as an opportunity for you to evolve your career. The future of customer support is in systems design and AI training. With your experience, you could potentially upskill into one of those areas. Just not at Arenix, was the unspoken addendum. The folder contains information about your separation package, Heather said, sliding it slightly closer to me. We're offering 4 weeks of severance pay, plus compensation for unused vacation time. Your health benefits will continue through the end of next month. 4 weeks. After 7 years. We'll need you to turn in your badge and company equipment today, Austin said. But we're also offering a 2-week consulting retainer if you're willing to assist with knowledge transfer to the new system. Share everything I know so you can feed it into the machine that's replacing me. Then, disappear. I didn't say it aloud. When does this take effect? I asked instead, my voice steadier than I felt. Immediately, Heather replied. But again, we're hoping you'll consider the consulting arrangement. Your insights would be tremendously valuable during this transition period. I looked at Austin, really looked at him. Behind the practiced empathy, I could see nothing but calculations. To him, I was a line item. A percentage point on his efficiency initiative. Do you actually believe this will work? I asked him directly. That an AI can replace what we do, poise. For a moment, his corporate mask slipped, and I glimpsed something like genuine conviction. It's not about replacement, Callie, it's about evolution. The data is clear. Properly implemented, AI systems can handle over 90% of support inquiries more efficiently than human agents. And the other 10%, that's where our new specialized technical team will come in. They'll handle the exceptions, the edge cases. The edge cases? In my experience, those were what kept businesses running or brought them to their knees. I could have argued, I could have listed 100 reasons why this approach would fail, why our customers would suffer, why institutional knowledge couldn't be transferred like files copied from one drive to another. Instead, I smiled. Not the professional smile I used with difficult customers, but a small, knowing smile that seemed to unsettle Austin more than any argument would have. "I understand," I said, picking up the folder. "Will that be all?" Austin and Heather exchanged a glance, clearly thrown by my lack of emotional response. "Yes," Austin said finally. "Heather will walk you to your desk to collect your personal items, and then to the exit." I stood. "That won't be necessary. I can find my own way out of the building I've worked in for 7 years." Heather started to object, but Austin raised a hand to stop her. "Of course, just make sure to leave your badge with security on your way out." I nodded and turned to leave. "Callie," Austin called after me. I paused at the door but didn't turn around. "I truly do wish you the best in your future endeavors." I looked back then, meeting his eyes. "And I truly wish you luck with Nora. I think you're going to need it." I walked out, closing the door softly behind me. My desk took less than 10 minutes to clear. 7 years reduced to a small box of personal items, a coffee mug my niece had painted, a small plant Diana had given me last Christmas, a few photographs, and a notebook filled with customer notes that technically belonged to the company, but that I took anyway. Diana was on a support call, but her eyes were red-rimmed. She'd received her meeting invitation for 5:15 p.m. I squeezed her shoulder as I passed. The security guard at the front desk looked uncomfortable as I handed him my badge. He'd been with the company almost as long as I had. "Sorry to see you go, Ms. Morgan," he said quietly. "Thanks, Eddie. Take care of yourself." I walked out into the late afternoon sunshine, my box of belongings in my arms, the folder with my severance information tucked inside. The door closed behind me with a soft, final click. Only then, standing on the sidewalk outside the building where I'd spent 7 years solving other people's problems, did I allow myself to feel the full weight of what had happened. I wasn't just losing a job, I was losing a role I'd crafted into something unique, relationships I'd built over years, a purpose that had defined my professional identity. But beneath the grief was something else. Something I wasn't ready to acknowledge, yet a certainty that Austin Greaves had just made the biggest mistake of his career. I didn't cry. I didn't curse. I just walked to my car, placed my box in the passenger seat, and drove home. The consulting offer sat on my kitchen table, unsigned, for 3 days. 2 weeks of pay to transfer 7 years of knowledge that lived not just in notes and tickets, but in patterns of understanding, in relationships, in context that couldn't be reduced to data points. On the 3rd day, I called Heather and declined. "Are you sure?" she asked, genuine surprise in her voice. "Austin was really hoping you'd reconsider. Your expertise would be incredibly valuable during this transition." "I'm sure," I said, "but please give Austin a message for me." "Of course. Tell him that some things can't be transferred. They can only be experienced." She promised to relay the message, though I doubted she understood it. I certainly didn't expect Austin to. I spent the next week in a strange limbo. I updated my resume, browsed job listings, and took long walks around my neighborhood at times when I would normally have been answering support calls. I checked my bank account and calculated how long my savings would last if I didn't find something new right away. But mostly, I thought about Arenix's customers, about Mr. Harrington at Atlas Core, who called me directly when systems failed, about Danielle York at Medarova, who'd once sent me flowers after I helped recover 3 months of lost patient scheduling data, about dozens of others who knew me by name, who trusted me to understand their businesses almost as well as they did themselves. I wondered how they were doing. I wondered if they'd been told I was gone. On the 8th day after my termination, I found myself at Crossroads Coffee, a small cafe across the street from the Arenix building. I hadn't planned to go there. My feet had simply carried me to a place where I could see my old workplace, like visiting the home of a friend who had suddenly died. I ordered a latte and took a seat by the window. From there, I could see the main entrance, the flow of people in and out. Former colleagues I recognized, new faces I didn't. I opened my notebook, the one I'd taken from my desk, and began to write. Not job applications or to-do lists, but memories, customer names, system configurations, workarounds for bugs that had never been properly fixed, special cases that no one but me had ever fully understood. Things Nora will never know. I wrote at the top of the page, Customer, Nanuzu 8, Lakeside Hospital. Margaret needs her password reset every Monday morning. She claims she doesn't forget it, but something in their system resets permissions over the weekend. We've never found the root cause, but it's been happening for 3 years. If you don't catch it by 8:30 a.m., their admission system throws errors that take hours to clear. Customer Broadrine de 94, International Bancaire. Antoine needs to be addressed in French in the initial email, then English for technical details. It's not in their official support requirements, but it's a matter of respect. They renewed their $2 million contract last year after we were the only vendor who consistently remembered this. Customer Botsurier 1CCC Atlas Core. Their warehouse in Charlotte has Wi-Fi dead zones that cause intermittent scanning errors. The official fix would require hardware they won't pay for. So we implemented a data reconciliation script that runs every hour. Without it, inventory discrepancies build up until the system crashes. I filled page after page, documenting the invisible architecture of relationships and accommodations that had kept Arenix's customers loyal despite software that was often outpaced by competitors. The human infrastructure that no automated system could replicate. I was on my third latte when I saw the email notification on my phone. It was from Diana, sent to my personal address. They launched Nora today. It's a disaster. Call me when you can. I paid for my coffees and walked to a nearby park to make the call. Diana answered on the first ring. They rolled it out with no transition period, she said, her voice hushed. I could tell she was calling from somewhere in the office where she might be overheard. Austin insisted it was ready, said the knowledge transfer was complete. What knowledge transfer? I asked. I didn't provide anything. Apparently, they fed all the support tickets and case notes from the past 5 years into the system. Austin says that's enough data for the AI to derive optimal response patterns, or some BS like that. I closed my eyes, imagining the chaos. Case notes were shorthand, context-dependent, often written for other human beings who shared implicit understanding. How bad is it? Diana's laugh was brittle. The phone hasn't stopped ringing. Nora is routing basic password resets to Tier 3 engineers while telling enterprise customers with system-critical issues to check the FAQ page. It classified Atlas Core's inventory synchronization problem as low priority because it didn't recognize the impact. What's Austin saying? That it's expected turbulence during transition, and the system needs time to learn. He's told everyone to stay the course. Who's left from our team? I asked. Just me and Rajiv. We're supposed to be exception handlers now. But really, we're just doing damage control. They fired everyone else. I wasn't surprised, but it still hurt to hear. I'm sorry, Diana. Don't be. I'm already looking for other jobs. This place is going to implode. She paused, and I heard voices in the background. I have to go. They're calling an emergency meeting about the support queue backlog. Keep me posted if you can, I said. Will do. Oh, and Callie. You should know customers are asking for you specifically, especially the big ones. A small, sad satisfaction bloomed in my chest. Thanks for telling me. After we hung up, I sat on the park bench for a long time, watching children play on the swings, dogs chase balls, normal life continuing all around me. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt a complex mix of emotions: concern for my former colleagues, worry for the customers I'd come to care about, and yes, a tiny, human part of me that whispered, I told you so. But I also felt something unexpected: relief. I was no longer responsible for holding together systems that were designed to fail. That burden had been lifted from me, not by choice, but by circumstance. I walked home and continued working on my list of things Nora would never know. 2 weeks after my firing, Arenix announced the launch of Sync IQ, their new integrated customer relationship management platform. The press release called it a revolutionary approach to enterprise resource management, with AI-driven customer support built into its core. I read the announcement on LinkedIn, where it was shared with enthusiastic corporate hashtags. The promotional video featured Austin explaining how SyncIQ would transform the customer experience through intelligent automation. What the video didn't mention were the warnings I'd logged in our internal system 9 months earlier, when the project was still in development. Warnings about data integration issues between the CRM and support modules. Warnings about how certain customer configurations would be incompatible with the new architecture. Warnings that were now buried in a database that no one left at the company knew how to interpret. I closed my laptop and went for a run, trying to outpace thoughts that weren't my responsibility anymore. 3 days later, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer, assuming it was a recruiter or spam call. Something made me pick up anyway. Hello. Is this Callie Morgan? A man's voice, stressed, but trying to maintain professionalism. Yes, this is Callie. Callie, this is James Harrington from Atlas Corp. I hope you don't mind me calling your personal number. I got it from your old colleague Diana. Mr. Harrington. The Friday afternoon caller who'd had trucks backed up at his distribution center. Of course not, Mr. Harrington. How can I help you? There was a pause, and I heard him take a deep breath. We've implemented the new SyncIQ system from Arenix. It was supposed to be an upgrade, but our entire inventory management system has been destabilized. Nothing is where it should be. And the automated support Nora keeps telling us to verify our network connection. I closed my eyes, visualizing the Atlas Corp setup in my mind. You have custom inventory modules with legacy protocol integration, I said. The new system probably didn't account for that during the migration. That's exactly right, he said, the relief in his voice palpable. That's what I've been trying to tell them. But I can't get through to anyone who understands our configuration. Have you asked for Rajiv? He should still be there. And he knows your system. We've been trying. They keep saying he's handling priority escalations and routing us back to Nora. I sat down at my kitchen table, feeling the weight of responsibility that was no longer mine. Mr. Harrington, I don't work for Arenix anymore. I was let go during their reorganization. I know, he said quietly. That's why I'm calling you directly. We're desperate. Callie, we have shipments that can't go out, inventory we can't locate. It's going to cost us millions if we can't resolve this soon. Part of me wanted to help. The problem solver in me was already running through potential fixes, workarounds, ways to reconcile the old system with the new. But another part of me remembered Austin's dismissive words, a regular answering machine can do this simple task. I'm sorry, Mr. Harrington, but I can't access your systems anymore, and even if I could, I'm not authorized to make any changes. What if we hired you as a consultant? He pressed. Not through Arenix, but directly with Atlas Corp. We just need someone who understands how our system is supposed to work. The offer was tempting, not just financially, but emotionally. I missed solving problems, missed the satisfaction of making things work. Let me think about it, I said finally. Can I call you back tomorrow? Of course, he said, the desperation still evident in his voice. And Callie, whatever they're paying you, we'll double it. After I hung up, I sat motionless at my kitchen table, torn between competing instincts. I could help Atlas Corp probably save them significant losses, but doing so would also, indirectly, help Arenix by preventing the loss of a major client. Why should I care about a company that had discarded me so easily? The answer came immediately, because I still cared about the customers. They weren't responsible for Austin's decisions. I was still wrestling with the dilemma when my phone rang again. This time, the number was familiar. Diana, is everything okay? Her laugh was humorless. Not even close. The SyncIQ launch is a complete disaster. Critical data from at least 15 major customers has been corrupted during migration. The engineering team is in full panic mode, and Nora is still telling people to check if their computers are plugged in. I just got a call from Atlas Core, I told her. They want to hire me directly as a consultant. You're not the only one. Rajiv's gotten calls from 3 different enterprise clients today. Austin is furious. He's telling everyone it's a temporary adjustment period and ordering the remaining support staff not to enable customer resistance to the new system. I could picture Austin in the conference room, clinging to his vision of automated efficiency while reality crumbled around him. Are you still looking for other jobs? I asked. Interview tomorrow, Diana confirmed. I've had a few calls from recruiters, but nothing solid yet. I hesitated. Diana, what would you do about Atlas Core? Should I help them? She was quiet for a moment. That depends. Do you want to fix their problem, or do you want Austin to face the consequences of his decisions? It was the question I'd been avoiding. Did I want Arenix to fail? Did I want the satisfaction of being proven right at the cost of customers' pain? I don't know, I admitted. For what it's worth, Diana said, I don't think you helping one client will save Arenix at this point. The problems are too widespread. Atlas Core is just the tip of the iceberg. After we hung up, I went back to Crossroads Coffee and took my usual window seat overlooking the Arenix building. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the street, and I could see unusual activity in the office, people moving with the urgent energy of crisis management. I opened my notebook to a fresh page and began writing not memories this time, but analysis. What would happen if Sync IQ failed catastrophically? Which clients would be affected most severely? What would the financial impact be? It wasn't my responsibility anymore, but the analytical part of my brain couldn't let go of the puzzle. I was so absorbed in my thoughts that I almost didn't notice when someone stopped at my table. Excuse me, are you Callie Morgan? I looked up to see a woman in her mid-40s, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit, with short, silver-streaked hair and intelligent eyes behind stylish glasses. Yes, I said cautiously. Can I help you? She extended her hand. Danielle York, Medorova. I hope you don't mind the interruption. I recognized you from the video conferences we've had over the years. Medorova, one of Orenix's largest healthcare clients, and one of the most complex implementations I'd supported. Ms. York, of course. I shook her hand and gestured to the empty chair across from me. Please, join me if you'd like. She sat, placing her leather portfolio on the table. I'm in town for what was supposed to be a straightforward Sync IQ implementation review. Instead, it's become something of a crisis management session. I've been hearing that the transition has been challenging, I said diplomatically. Her laugh was sharp. Challenging is one word for it. Catastrophic might be more accurate. Our patient scheduling system has been generating duplicate appointments. Our billing module is applying incorrect insurance codes, and the medication tracking system. She shook her head. Let's just say it's a good thing we have manual backups. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. And I meant it. Medorova dealt with real patients, real lives. Software failures weren't just inconvenient, they could be dangerous. The most frustrating part, Danielle continued, is that no one at Arenix seems to understand our setup anymore. The few support people left keep directing us to automated systems that don't address our specific configuration. And when we finally reach a human, they don't have the context you always provided. I felt a pang of professional pride, quickly followed by concern. Have you been able to get help from anyone? She sighed. They keep promising that the AI system will learn our needs over time, but we don't have time. Callie, we're a hospital network. Every minute of system instability puts patients at risk. I understand. And I did better than anyone at Arenix currently did. Danielle studied me for a moment, her gaze shrewd. Can I ask why you left? You were always the one person we could count on to understand our needs. I didn't leave voluntarily, I said, deciding honesty was the simplest approach. The new CEO restructured the support department. He believes automated systems can handle customer support more efficiently than human specialists. Something flashed in Danielle's eyes, understanding, then anger. So they fired the one person who actually understood how our systems worked, and now they're surprised that things are falling apart, I didn't answer directly. I didn't need to. Callie, she said, leaning forward slightly. Would you be willing to consult with Metarova directly? We need someone who understands both our systems and Arenix's software. We're prepared to make it worth your while. It was the second such offer in 2 days. The universe seemed to be pushing me toward a decision. I'm considering a similar offer from Atlas Core, I admitted, but I'm not sure if I should get involved. Why not? I chose my words carefully. Because fixing individual client problems won't address the fundamental issues at Arenix. It might even enable them to continue on a path that's ultimately harmful to all their customers. Danielle sat back, a small, knowing smile on her lips. You're hoping they'll learn their lesson. I'm hoping someone will recognize that customer support isn't just about answering phones or responding to tickets, I said. It's about understanding the human systems that technology is supposed to serve. She nodded slowly. And if they don't learn that lesson, then I think Arenix will lose most of its major clients within 6 months, including Metarova. I met her gaze directly. Ms. York, you came looking for me because the system is failing and the company doesn't value your business enough to maintain the human expertise needed to support it. What does that tell you? She didn't answer immediately, instead opening her portfolio and removing a sleek tablet. She tapped the screen a few times, then turned it so I could see. This is our SyncIQ implementation status report. The red items are critical failures that directly impact patient care. The yellow ones are serious issues that will become critical within days if not addressed. The screen was a sea of red and yellow. We've been with Arenix for 8 years, Danielle said quietly. We've weathered software bugs, delayed updates, and features that didn't work as promised. We stayed because we always felt that when things went wrong, there were people like you who would move heaven and earth to make them right again. She took the tablet back and closed the portfolio. You don't need to consult for us, Callie. You've already told me what I needed to know. What's that? I asked, though I suspected I already understood. That we're no longer important to Arenix. She stood, straightening her jacket with a practiced motion. Thank you for your time. And for your honesty. I watched her walk out of the cafe, her posture perfect, her pace unhurried. She didn't look back at the Arenix building as she passed it. 2 days later, Metarova announced they were terminating their contract with Arenix, citing irreconcilable implementation failures and insufficient support infrastructure. The news hit the tech blogs immediately, with headlines questioning the viability of SyncIQ and Arenix's new support model. I didn't hear from Diana that day. But the next morning she texted me, Austin called an all-hands, complete meltdown, blaming engineering, data migration, everything but his own decisions. Meanwhile, Global Financial just pulled out too. Global Financial. Another major client, another complex implementation that required human understanding to maintain. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt a strange emptiness. I'd spent years building a network of trust, a web of knowledge that kept systems functioning even when they should have failed. Now I was watching it unravel from the outside. My phone buzzed again. New text from Diana. Got the job. Starting next month at Telesis. You should apply. They're expanding their support team. At least something good was coming from the chaos. I sent back a congratulatory message and promised to check out the opening. Then I returned to my notebook, where I'd been drafting ideas for a different kind of support system, one that recognized the value of human expertise while leveraging technology appropriately. The ideas had started as a way to process my feelings about being fired. But with each day, as I heard more about Arenix's collapse, they were evolving into something more concrete, a potential path forward. I was interrupted by another call, this time from Rajiv. Callie, it's getting really bad here, he said without preamble. Atlas Core is threatening legal action over lost inventory data. 3 more enterprise clients have given notice. The board called an emergency meeting this morning. Are you still hanging in there? I asked, concerned for my former colleague. Barely. Austin's been on a witch hunt, trying to blame everyone but himself. The engineers are pulling 80-hour weeks trying to patch sync IQ, but it's like trying to build a foundation after the house is already up. What about Nora? Rajiv's laugh was bitter. They've basically abandoned it. Too many complaints about useless responses. We're back to manual ticket routing. But with a quarter of the staff we used to have, I'm sorry, Rajiv. This must be incredibly stressful. It's not your fault. Callie? He paused. Actually, that's not why I'm calling. I wanted to let you know Austin's been fired. I sat up straighter. What? When? About an hour ago, the board voted unanimously after the emergency meeting. Marion Chen has been named interim CEO while they search for a replacement. Marion, the longtime CTO who had looked concerned during Austin's initial announcement. That's unexpected, I said, genuinely surprised. I'd anticipated Arenix would struggle without proper support, but I hadn't expected the board to act so decisively. Apparently, they've been getting calls directly from major clients. Rajiv continued. Not just complaints about Syncy IQ, but specifically about the dismantling of the support team. Someone I'm guessing Danielle York from Medarova has been rallying other enterprise customers to make noise at the board level. I thought about Danielle walking out of the cafe, her decision already made. What happens now? I asked. Marion's called for a full review of the Syncy IQ implementation and the support structure. She's already talking about rebuilding the support team properly this time, with better integration into the development process. Hope flickered unexpectedly. Marion had always understood the value of what we did, even if she hadn't been able to prevent Austin's transformation. Will you stay? I asked. I'm not sure, Rajiv admitted. This has been pretty traumatic, to be honest. But Marion asked me to reach out to former team members who might be willing to come back, including you, Callie. The offer hung between us, unexpected and complicated. I don't know. Rajiv, a lot of damage has been done to the systems, to the customer relationships, to trust within the company. I know, and no one expects an immediate answer. But Marion specifically mentioned you. She said, and I'm quoting here, "We need the people who know where all the bodies are buried." It was such a Marion phrase that I couldn't help but smile. She'd always had a blunt way of acknowledging reality. Tell her I appreciate her thinking of me, I said. I'll consider it. After we hung up, I returned to the park where I'd walked after being fired. The same children might have been playing on the swings. The same dogs chasing balls. Life continuing, changing, adapting. I sat on a bench and opened my notebook to the last few pages, where I'd been sketching my ideas for a better support system. For a better company, really. The core concept was simple. Support specialists shouldn't just be the people who answered phones when things went wrong. They should be integrated into the development process, their knowledge of customer needs and pain points helping to shape the products from the beginning. Technology could help. AI could handle routine queries, analyze patterns, even predict likely issues before they occurred. But it needed to be guided by human understanding, by the context that couldn't be reduced to data points. I'd been thinking of it as a hypothetical, a way to process my own experience. But now, with Marion at the helm of Arenix and a mandate to rebuild, it could be something more. Could I go back? Could I help reconstruct what had been broken? Did I want to? The answer wasn't immediately clear. Part of me was still hurt, still angry at being so easily discarded. Another part recognized the opportunity to build something better than what had existed before. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Callie, this is Marion Chen. When you're ready to talk about the future of support at Arenix, call me. We need to rebuild, and we need to do it right this time. I looked at the message for a long time, considering possibilities, weighing options. Then I sent a reply. I have some ideas. Let's talk tomorrow. 3 weeks later. I stood in the Arenix conference room, the same one where Austin had announced his transformation initiative. The audience was smaller now. Marion, the remaining engineering team, a handful of product managers, and 3 former support specialists who had agreed to return, including Diana, who had negotiated a release from her new job offer to come back. The past month has been challenging, to say the least, Marion began, her no-nonsense tone a stark contrast to Austin's rehearsed enthusiasm. We've lost major clients, damaged our reputation, and burned through cash reserves trying to patch systems that should never have been deployed in their current state. Heads nodded around the room. There was no point sugarcoating the situation. But we've also learned some valuable lessons, Marion continued. The most important being that technology doesn't exist in isolation. It exists to serve human needs, and understanding those needs requires human insight. She nodded to me. Callie has been working on a proposal for restructuring not just our support team, but our entire approach to customer relationships. I've reviewed it, and I believe it represents our best path forward. I stepped to the front of the room, tablet in hand, surprisingly calm despite the stakes. The last few weeks had given me clarity. I wasn't just fighting for my job anymore. I was advocating for a fundamentally different understanding of what support meant. What happened with Zinke IQ wasn't just a technical failure, I began. It was a failure to recognize that customer support isn't separate from product development, it's an integral part of it. I clicked to the first slide of my presentation, titled The Human Infrastructure. For years, we've been the invisible architecture holding our systems together. We've been the institutional memory, the workaround experts, the translators between technical possibilities and human needs. When we were removed, that architecture collapsed. Faces around the room showed understanding, even from the engineers who had sometimes viewed support as separate from their real work. But we can build something better, I continued, advancing to the next slide. A system where support specialists aren't just the people who answer phones when things go wrong. We're partners in the development process, bringing customer insights directly into product decisions. Over the next 30 minutes, I outlined my vision support specialists embedded with engineering teams, contributing to feature prioritization and design decisions. A knowledge management system that captured not just technical information, but context and relationships. An AI assistant that augmented human expertise rather than attempting to replace it. Nora was a failure, I acknowledged. But not because AI can't be valuable in support. It failed because it was designed to eliminate humans rather than empower them. I showed mock-ups of a redesigned Nora, one that would help support specialists identify patterns, surface relevant information, and handle routine tasks while always maintaining the human connection that our customers valued. The truth is, I concluded, a regular answering machine can't do this job. But a human specialist empowered with the right tools and knowledge can do it extraordinarily well. When I finished, the room was quiet for a moment. Then Marion stood. This is ambitious, she said. It will require changes to how we structure teams, how we allocate resources, how we measure success. Some of it will be uncomfortable. She looked around the room, making eye contact with each person. But I believe it's necessary. Not just to recover from our current crisis, but to build something better than what we had before. There were questions, of course, concerns about implementation, about costs, about timelines. But beneath the practical considerations, I sensed a shift in the room, a recognition that we were talking about something more fundamental than organizational charts or support metrics. We were talking about what it meant to create technology that truly served human needs. As the meeting ended and people filed out, Diana caught up with me in the hallway. That was impressive, she said. You've been busy these past few weeks. I smiled. I had a lot of time to think about what went wrong and how to fix it. And Marion's on board with all of it. Most of it. We're still negotiating some details, but she understands the core principle that customer support isn't just a cost center, it's a strategic advantage. Diana nodded thoughtfully. So, are you officially back then? Director of Customer Experience, or whatever your new title is? I hesitated. The truth was more complicated. Not exactly, I admitted. I'm consulting for now, helping to rebuild the team and implement the new structure. But I'm also working on something else. Something else? I pulled out my phone and showed her a website still in development. The company name at the top read, Human Infrastructure. A startup? Diana's eyebrows rose. A different kind of support consultancy. I explained, helping companies understand that customer relationships aren't just about technology, they're about the human systems that technology is supposed to serve. Understanding dawned in Diana's eyes. You're not just fixing a Renix, you're trying to prevent the next Austin Greaves from making the same mistake somewhere else. Exactly. She studied the website for another moment, then looked up at me with a slow smile. Are you hiring? 6 months later, I stood in the lobby of Atlas Corp's headquarters, waiting to meet with their CIO. Through the glass walls, I could see their distribution center operations, the same ones that had nearly ground to a halt during the Sinky IQ disaster. Atlas Corp had eventually returned to Arenix, after Marion personally visited to outline the company's new approach to customer support. But they'd also become one of human infrastructure's first clients, engaging us to help redesign their internal support systems using the same principles we'd implemented at Arenix. My team was small but growing, 5 former support specialists from various companies, each with deep expertise in particular industries. Diana had joined as my partner, bringing her healthcare knowledge to complement my manufacturing and finance background. We weren't anti-technology. In fact, we worked closely with AI developers to create systems that augmented human capabilities rather than attempting to replace them. The difference was in the underlying philosophy: technology in service of human relationships, not as a substitute for them. Marion had become one of our strongest advocates, even while we helped rebuild Arenix's support infrastructure. You're doing what needs to be done, she told me, creating a model that other companies can follow. As I waited in the lobby, I reflected on the journey of the past year. From being told I was unnecessary to building a company dedicated to proving how essential the human element really was. I didn't need revenge, I just needed to wait for the truth to speak up. And now it was speaking not just at Arenix or Atlas Corp, but across an industry that had sometimes forgotten what technology was ultimately for connecting people to solve human problems. My phone buzzed with a text from Diana Medorova. Just signed the contract. We're officially overbooked. Time to hire. I smiled and typed back, absolutely. Send me candidates with good listening skills, because that was what Austin had never understood. The most valuable thing we did wasn't answering phones or typing responses to tickets. It was listening truly, listening to what customers needed, often before they could fully articulate it themselves. No answering machine could do that. But a human, supported by the right technology and embedded in the right systems, could do it extraordinarily well. The CIO's assistant appeared in the lobby. Ms. Morgan, they're ready for you now. I put away my phone and picked up my tablet, ready to share what I'd learned about the value of human infrastructure in a technological world. Some lessons had to be learned the hard way. But once learned, they didn't have to be forgotten again.